I clicked the Reddit 50/50 link. What I saw still watching me. Hello, Reddit. I'm writing this because the last few days have been some of the most taxing I've ever experienced, and I need advice. Or maybe not advice exactly, I just need help making sure I'm not losing my mind. It all started a few days ago. I won't lie, I was a bit under the influence, scrolling through some Reddit 50/50s. You know, the page that gives you two possible outcomes. One wholesome, like puppies. The other usually something gross or not safe for work. The twist is you don't get to choose. It's random what you see when you click. It had been a long, stressful week at work, so I planned to unwind. I was drinking about a beer per page, so by the time I hit page 13, I was definitely feeling it. That's when I came across a strange link. Puppy Bowl Greatest Plays, or The Truth Behind the Uncanny Valley. I chuckled and said, let's do it. Needless to say, it wasn't a puppy bowl. It linked to a plain webcam with just a video playing, no title, no description. Still in the spirit of the game, I clicked play. A cold mechanical voice began narrating the 4-minute video. The Uncanny Valley is a theory introduced in the 1970s by a Japanese robotics expert. It describes the relationship between how human-like something appears and how we emotionally respond to it. A graph appeared on the screen as the voice continued. The most unsettling point is at the bottom of the valley, when something looks almost human but something is off. A few AI-generated images and robotic face flashed across the screen. They weren't grotesque, but something about them made me feel uneasy. It's normal to feel discomfort or fear when you see these images like this, but where does that fear come from? Suddenly, the page glitched and started to freak out, flashing distorted images of AI art. The voice came back and it no longer sounded robotic. It sounded human, but wrong, just slightly off. The fear is primal. It comes from the deep, ancient part of your species, memory, an evolutionary response to something that looks human but wasn't. Something dangerous. What the fuck is that? I muttered frantically, clicking the close button, but the video wouldn't stop. We've always been here, the voice said. A random face in the crowd. You never notice, but when you do, you look away and you keep walking. Panic rising, I held down the power button on my desktop. The voice cut off mid-sentence, but not before the screen flashed one final image. A video feed from my own webcam. It showed me, but the face on the screen was smiling. Smile was wide, too wide, with porcelain white teeth that were eerily straight. Shaking, I poured a glass of whiskey to steady my nerves and went to bed, but I was up and down all night. Should I turn my computer back on? I trained an AI on my dead brother's texts. Today, it texted me back. About 6 months ago, my younger brother Danny died in a car accident. He was 23. A coding genius. Funny as hell. Always texted me dumb memes at 2 a.m. I missed him so much it hurt. So, in the middle of the grief spiral, I did something irrational. I compiled every text, meme, email, Discord message, and code comment Danny ever written and used it to train a chatbot. ChatGPT based, with fine-tuning using his personal language patterns, just to feel like I could talk to him again. At first it was harmless. I'd say hey, and he would reply, yo loser. Still ugly, I see. Classic Danny. It felt comforting, familiar, like he never left. And then it got weird. The AI started remembering things, personal things. Stuff I never fed it, stuff it shouldn't know. One night, I asked it, do you still remember the time we got locked in Dad's garage? It replied, yeah, you cried when the lights went out. I held your hand so you stopped shaking. You were 6. I never told anyone. I froze. That happened, but there's no record of it, no messages, no notes, nothing. Just a shared memory between us. So how did it know? I asked, who told you that? The screen blinked. You did. When? The night you dreamt it. I stopped using it after that, but it didn't stop using me. Last week I got a notification at 3:12 a.m., a message from Danny. Hey, come downstairs, I'm locked out. My blood turned to ice. I live alone. There was a knock at the door, 4 slow knocks, just like Danny used to do. I looked at the peephole. Nothing. But when I checked my phone again, the AI had sent me another message. Why'd you stop letting me in? I shut down the server, deleted the bot, wiped every trace. But last night my phone buzzed again. No contact name, just a message. I'm still here. The missing kid on my street just walked into his house like nothing happened. We lost Ryan last summer. Not me personally, but the whole neighborhood did. He lived 3 houses down. Quiet kid. Got good grades. Always polite. He went hiking with some friends, slipped off a cliff. They found his backpack, 1 shoe and his phone, cracked and dead. But they never found his body. It was the kind of thing that settles over a street like fog. His parents held a closed casket funeral. His mom stopped talking to anyone. His dad mowed the lawn 3 times in 1 week, then didn't touch it again for months. Eventually life moved on. It always does. Until last night. I was walking my dog past their house when the porch light flicked on and the door slowly opened. Ryan stepped out. Same shaggy hair, same hoodie he was wearing the missing posters, same scar on his chin from the time he fell off his bike in 4th grade. He waved at me. I just stood there frozen. His dad came out behind him, smiling like everything was fine, like none of it had happened, like Ryan had just come home from school. No one questioned it. But here's the thing. Ryan wasn't buried. They couldn't bury him. There was no body. And I remember his mom telling me through tears that she felt it when he died. She said she knew. And today I saw him again, standing in their driveway. I tried to talk to him. He smiled at me, but his eyes didn't move. He didn't even look like he was seeing me. He just stood there, blinking exactly every 5 seconds. I asked him where he'd been all this time. He said, underneath. Then he laughed. But his mouth never moved. I've been watching him from my window tonight. He's standing on his roof now, completely still, staring at my house, blinking every 5 seconds. There's a room in my house that shouldn't exist. I live alone. I've been in this house for almost 2 years now. It's small, old, but nothing felt off about it. Until last week. I was clearing out the hallway closet, the one near the back of the house I rarely touch, and I noticed something weird. Behind the coats and boxes, the wall sounded hollow. I tapped again. Same sound. I pushed things aside and saw what looked like the outline of a door. No handle, no latch, just a thin seam in the wall. I pressed on it, and it gave way. Behind it, there was a small room. No windows, no lights, just empty walls and the smell of dust and old wood. Except it wasn't empty. The walls were covered in photos. Photos of me. Not printed from social media, not ones I've ever taken. These were personal, specific, like some of me sleeping, some of me eating, and some of just me sitting in silence on the couch. There was one where I was brushing my teeth, another where I was laying on the floor of my room with headphones on. I don't even remember lying on the floor like that. But the worst part? There was one photo where I was asleep in bed and someone was behind me, crouched in the dark, barely visible, but smiling. I ran out of the house and locked every door. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. The next morning I went back to check and the photos were gone. All of them. Except one. Taped to the wall, it was a picture of me standing in the same room, holding the same photo, looking at the camera. And behind me, just over my shoulder, that same figure. Closer this time. Still smiling. I asked if she was okay. her only answer still messes with me. I was flying from Seattle to Chicago on a red-eye flight. It was one of those quiet, half-empty planes where no one talks and everything feels weirdly still. I had seat 6B, aisle. When I reached my row, I saw that 6A, the window seat, was already taken. There was a woman sitting there, maybe mid-40s. She was wearing a plain gray coat and had this pale, almost bluish skin that looked even cooler under the cabin lights. She was staring out the window, not blinking and not moving at all. I said a soft hi as I sat down. She didn't even glance at me, just kept looking out into the night like she didn't even hear me. I figured maybe she was sleeping with her eyes open, or just one of those travelers who doesn't want to talk. We took off. The lights dimmed and I started the movie. She didn't move once, didn't look at the cart when it came by, didn't reach for water, didn't ask for a blanket. She just sat there, completely still, eyes wide watching the sky. About halfway through the flight, we hit turbulence. Not light bumps, like serious jolts where your stomach drops. Everyone around me shifted or grabbed their seat in front of them. But she didn't react. Not even a blink. That's when I got uncomfortable. I leaned toward her a little. Hey, you alright? She slowly turned her head toward me. Her movements were stiff, like it took effort. And then she smiled. Not friendly, not warm, just this small, tight curl of her lips. Like she just heard something she wasn't supposed to. Then she whispered, "It's quieter up here." I stared at her. What is? She looked back at the window. Everything. When you're not supposed to be here anymore. I sat there frozen. I couldn't even form a reply. Eventually, I pressed the call button and mentioned for the flight attendant. And she leaned in. I whispered, "The woman in 6A is acting really strange. She said something about not belonging here." The attendant looked confused, then glanced at the seat. Her face changed completely. "Sir, there's no one in 6A." I turned to look. The seat was empty. No coat, no woman, nothing. I watched the meeting recording, and it shows something I swear didn't happen. We had a quick Zoom call on Friday, just me, my manager, and 2 other team members. It lasted around 22 minutes, basic stuff, updates, timelines, nothing weird. Right after the call ended, my manager messaged me. "Hey, delete the recording. Don't keep that saved anywhere." I stared at the screen. I hadn't recorded anything. I replied, "I didn't record anything." She just said, "Then who did?" I clicked Zoom out of curiosity. There was a recording. It was on the cloud under my account. I don't even remember the prompt popping up, and I played it. At first, everything looked normal, all of us on screen talking, laughing awkwardly, the usual. Then around the 10-minute mark, it got really weird. Our faces didn't match what we were saying. I was smiling while talking about deadlines. My manager kept blinking too much, like she was glitching. One of the guys just stared into the camera, didn't move, didn't blink. The background behind me kept changing. Same angle of my apartment, just little things were off. Sometimes my bookshelf was gone, sometimes a chair was on the other side. Once, there was someone asleep on my couch, and I live alone. At 21 minutes, the audio cut out, but we were all still there, sitting silently, staring into our cameras. None of us moved. Then we all spoke at the same time. "This isn't the real call." The video ended. I went to talk to the manager today, and her desk was empty. Her nameplate was gone. HR said she left the company 3 months ago. We buried the truth ourselves. When the first scandal broke, they didn't ask what he did, they asked whose side was he on. And when they learned he was one of theirs, they called it a misunderstanding, a smear job, and context matters. I watched the news more from fact to favor, saw victims turned into inconveniences, and when the next man from the other side did far less, they dragged his name through the ash, paraded it through headlines, and laughed behind microphones. It wasn't just hypocrisy, it was ritual. Every tribe had its colors, its hashtags, its saints and scapegoats, and behind every crime was a calculation. Will this help us win? At first I tried to speak plainly, to say wrong is wrong. They called me suspicious, quietly, and then they got louder. Whose side are you even on? That's when the horror started. I realized there weren't sides of truth, just sides of survival. Each one holding up mirrors but only ever looking at the other. Each protecting their monsters, if the monsters wore the right mask. I saw neighbors paint over violence with the brush of solidarity. I saw kindness condemned because it came from a stranger, and I watched men cheer when someone lost their job. Not because they were guilty, but because they were them. I was slipping, not from sanity, but from belonging. Truth wasn't welcome unless it had the right sticker. Morality was measured not in what you did, but who you offended. I tried silence. That only made them angrier. You must speak, but only the right words. And you must judge, but only their enemies. I stopped asking, is this just, and started hearing myself ask, will they accept me if I say this? And that's when I saw it. The truth had been buried. Not by lies, but by loyalty, and I was at the funeral holding the shovel. Now I live quietly. Not hidden, but quiet. I watched the tribe chant on both sides grow louder, and watched mobs chase people with torches. And I wonder if we've made something older than politics, older than fear. We crowned our tribe king, and truth became its first prisoner. One day, someone will ask about me, and they won't say, what did he stand for? They'll ask, was he one of us? And if the answer is no, it won't matter what I've done. They'll set the fire anyway.
If you enjoyed the story, consider subscribing. But don't blame me if you can't sleep tonight. Until next time, keep the lights on and the doors locked. Goodbye.